Right, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're learning Maseches Kesubos Daf Nun Hey. We'll also be learning the first third of Nun Vav Amud Aleph, which will be helpful for the coming couple of days. Over the coming few days, we do need to cover a little extra ground. I won't be here for Shabbos, so between tonight and the next couple of nights through and including Friday morning, we'll be able to do all of the Shabbos's blot as well. Let's get started. 4 lines down on Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph. The Gemara reads, Itmar, there was a discussion among the Amoraim in regards to Kesubos benin dichrin. We spoke about Kesubos benin dichrin, which was a clause that was added to a regular Kesuba, that when a man took a new wife, so we wanted to make sure that the father of that wife would give generously to the dowry without the concern that he would potentially lose the principle of the dowry with the death of his daughter, thereby leaving everything with the husband. So Kesubos benin dichrin allows her to earmark the dowry to her son, should she have children with this new husband. In regards to that, says the Gemara, we have a discussion in Pumbedisa. The people from Pumbedisa, Amre, they said, Lo tarfa mi mishabde. You're not allowed to connect Kesubos benin dichrin. You're not allowed to connect it from properties that have been sold. Why not? Because yartun tnan, because we're speaking about a Yerusha. A Yerusha also can't be taken from properties that have been sold. Bnei Maseches argued, the people of Maseches, these were 2 bastions of Torah back in the day, nearly 2,000 years ago. Amre, they said, Tarfa mi mishabde. Nun Hayam and Bay, 7 lines down. Tarfa mi mishabde, you are allowed to from the Kuchos, because Yispun Tnan, the language we have is a language of taking, and Rashi says it's a language of Baalei Chov, as if you are owed something like anybody else. And that's what the Gemara says is the machlokes between the Bnei Maseches and the Bnei Pumbedisa. And how do we paskin? The Gemara says, "V'hilchasa lo tarfa mi mishabde," that we are not allowed to do that because yartun tnan, because the Kesubos benin dichrin is most similar to a Yerusha. That's the first machlokes between Pumbedisa and Maseches. Here's the second one. Metaltale, Rashi gives us a little bit more of the picture. I don't know how Rashi knows this because it doesn't say it in the Gemara. There are hints to it later, but still, Rashi, on the very last short line of the Rashis, Dibur Hamaskil Metaltale. Rashi says, what's the case? Hamiyachid Metaltale the Kesubos Ishto Umes. That's our case, is that a husband says, I'm giving you these metaltalin in the form of payment for your ksuba. So let's go back in the Gemara. Metaltale, if a man uses these metaltalin, these are items without achrayas, without a lien on them, and he uses them to pay his wife for her ksuba, and they exist in front of us. It's not conceptual. It's not like owning stocks. It is literally gold coins sitting there in front of you. We know they're there. So says the Gemara, there she's allowed to take that below shvua. She does not need to make a shvua. What shvua might she make? She might have said, she might have accidentally or on purpose taken from other properties other than this metaltalin for her ksuba. Let's say she's a basula and her ksuba was 200 zuz. And there's 200 zuz worth of gold coins in front of me. Do we need her to make a shvua when she takes the 200 zuz worth of gold coins to say, I also am guaranteeing I didn't take anything else from the husband? Yes or no? So the Gemara says when the metaltalin are be'einahu, when they're right in front of us, it's below shvua. Less nehu be'einahu. However, if the gold coins that the husband had dedicated to use as payment for her ksuba are not in front of her, then we enter a machlokes between the Bnei Pumbedisa and the Bnei Maseches. Pumbedisa amre below shvua. We still trust her that she did not take any other property, and that really she's eligible to take all 200 zuz worth of the gold coins. They said she does need to make a shvua because the coins aren't in front of us. We don't know if maybe she took some of the coins, and therefore she has to make a shvua. How do we paskin? 1/3 of the way down on Nun Hey Amud Aleph, the Gemara says the way we paskin is below shvua. All right, very good. Next case, we're a third of the way down, a little bit more on Nun Hey Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, let's say that a husband says, I'm giving you this property at this address. Here are the 4 borders, northwest, east, and south. This is the property, all 4 borders below shvua. What about b'chad metzra? What if he only defined for her one of the 4 borders? That's a machlokes Pumbedisa and Maseches. Halfway down on Nun Hey Amud Aleph, Pumbedisa amre below shvua. No need to make a shvua. We trust that she's going to take the right property. They require her to make a shvua. The hilchasa, what's the halacha below shvua? She does not need to make a shvu in this case. Next case. Amar le'edim kisvu v'chismu v'havu le. I would like you to write it, and I'd like you to sign it, and I'd like you to give it to her. Says the Gemara, kanu minei, if a kinyan was made, just like a chassan might do at his chuppah, where he makes a kinyan indicating that the contents of the ksuba are things that he's obligated to do and he's taking upon himself. Let's say they made the same kinyan. If kanu minei lo tzarechim luchebe, then they don't have to re-ask the question b'shaito. We know what he said. We made a kinyan. We are now his representatives. We're all well and good. But lo kanu minei, if no kinyan was made at the time that the husband said, I'd like you to give this and that to this woman with a signature, that's a machlokas pumpadisa and matamachasya. Says the Gemara, 10 lines from the bottom, pumpadisa amre lo tzarich im luchebe. We don't need to ask any more questions. We know exactly what's going on, even if there's no kinyan. They said no. We always need to refresh and re-dialogue with the husband. In this case, that we need to discuss this with her. So these are 4 cases that we just discussed as machlokos between Mata Mechasya and Pumpadisa. Now, it's 7 lines from the bottom. We're quoting a section from our Mishnah, Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. If you look back on the previous Amud, at the first Mishnah in the Perek, and you look a little bit more than, where is it? You look in the first half of the Mishnah, 5 lines into the Perek, it says, Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria says that when there's a Tosefes Ksuba, he says that only min hanesuin can she collect the Tosefes Ksuba. So let's say that I'm the husband, and I give my wife 200 zuz Ksuba, and I add, because I love her so much, an extra 500 zuz. My Tosefes Ksuba is an extra 500. So then there's something happened after Erison, and we decided to break things off. So does she get the Ksuba and the Tosefes Ksuba, 200 plus 500, or does she just get the 200? Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria says the Tosefes Ksuba only applies after full marriage, not after Erison. That's not enough. So that's the din of Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. Contract, after the first stage of marriage, I have to give the basic of the Ksuba, 200 or 100, Besula, Be'ula, respectively. But the Tosefes Ksuba, the extra 500, I don't have to give if we separate after Erison, only if we separate after marriage, Nisuin. So there the Gemara says, how do we paskin? Says the Gemara, Itmar, the Amoraim discussed this sheet of Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. Rav v'Rav Nassan. Rav v'Rabbi Nassan, these very early Amoraim, and the Gemara says as follows. Chad Omar halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. One of them says we paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, and what that means is that the Tosefes Ksuba will not be paid out if the marriage is severed after Erison but before Nisuin. The Chad Omar ain't halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. Some say no, that's not correct. Really, she still gets the Tosefes Ksuba even though they broke off their marriage after Erison and before Nisuin. Who holds like who? Who holds like the either shita between Rav and Rav Nassan? The Gemara says Tistayim. It's logical to conclude that Rav Nassan who the Amar halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. It's logical to assume that Rav Nassan was the one who says that we hold like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. Why would we say that? Disham'inan leila Rabbi Nassan the ozil basar umdana. Because says the Gemara, Rav Nassan holds of an umdana. An umdana is in halacha is when I make an assumption about an unknown feature about something that you did. This husband did not specify when the Tosefes Ksuba should apply, after Erison or only after Nisuin. We don't know. What did Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria do in our Mishnah? He went into the person's brain and said he must have meant that the only time a Tosefes Ksuba is given is after Nisuin and not before. He must have meant that. That's an umdana. We're not even sure that that's what the husband meant. But because we don't know, we have to fall back on an assumption. The most reasonable assumption, says Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, is I'm going to make an umdana. My assumption is that the husband was only willing to go all in with this extra Tosefes Ksuba after they're fully married because he wants to live, he wants to be married to her. So therefore, I'm going to make an umdana, says Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, that if a husband divorces his wife right after Erison and before Nisuin, she does not get the Tosefes Ksuba. It's an umdana. And Reb Nassan also makes an umdana. And therefore, we're aligning their shitas. Where's Reb Nassan's umdana? To Amar Reb Nassan, last line, halacha ki Reb Shimon Shizuri v'mesukan. We need a rashi on the bottom page here, on the bottom of the page. What is the case of Mesukan? So the last rashi on the page, on Nun Hey and Aleph, about 10 lines from the bottom, Dibur Hamasla b'Mesukan, Rashi says, b'Maseches Gittin, HaMefaresh v'Hayotze v'Shayara. A man is going out on the path. V'Omer Kisu get le'ishti. He says, write my wife a get. Says Rashi, Afal pi shelo amar tenu. Even though he didn't say give her the get, hare elu yichtavu v'yitnu. We still write it and give it. What is this called? An umdana. We're assuming that that's what he wanted. It's a reasonably logical conclusion. So just like Rebbe Lazar ben Azaria and our Mishnah made an assumption in umdana that there's no way the husband would want her to have a tosefes ksuba after Eresin if they divorce, only after nisuin. Reb Nosson does the same thing by the Mesukan, by the man who's ill or going out of town. And he says, write my wife a get. He forgets to say to give it to her. We assume he wanted to give it to her, and we give it to her. That's an umdana also. So therefore, between Rav and Rav Nosson, the Gemara says it's reasonable to assume that Rav Nosson is the one who holds like Rebbe Lazar ben Azaria. And as well as where we turn to the top of Nun Hey Amud Beis, there's another case where Rav Nosson holds of umdana, ubetrumas meiser shel demai. Rashi has be'arichutz what's going on here. We're not going to discuss this. It's really a side point here. We're not going to discuss it now, but there is a particular case of trumas meiser, which was demai. We had an element of safek. Do we make an umdana? Do we not make an umdana? Ayin sham birashi. So that's the Gemara's standing assumption, is that just like Rebbe Lazar ben Azaria has an umdana, Reb Nosson does too. So Reb Nosson must be the one who holds like Rebbe Lazar ben Azaria. Says the Gemara on the top line, wait 1 second. We had a machlokas between Rav and Reb Nosson. And you're saying that Reb Nosson holds of umdana just like Rebbe Lazar ben Azaria. Asks the Gemara, the Rav lo azil basar umdana. Rav, throughout all of Shas, won't go into the person's brain and make an assumption on his behalf? No way. How do we know that that's not true? Let's take a look at this case. Itmar, we have a case that was brought up in the Amoraim. Matnas shchiv meira, we have a gift from a shchiv meira. Shekasu ba kinyan. It's written about the fact that there would be a kinyan. Now, we don't know how far we should go with the shchiv meira. We're willing to give a little more rope because he's not well. And we know he has his mental faculties in, but he's tired. He can't say all the words. How far do we go? So says the Gemara, Bebe Rav, Mishmei de Rav, in the base medrash of Rav and in the name of Rav, what did they say? They said a cryptic line. We're going to explain it in a couple of minutes. Amre, they said, Arkiva atre rakshe. It's like you're riding 2 horses at the same time. We'll see what that means in a moment. Ushmuel argues and says, Ushmuel Amar, Lo yadana ma idun be. I don't know how to judge this case. If you're going to make me be the judge, I don't know what to say in this case. What did each of their shitas mean in regards to this case of the Matna Shchiv Meira? So says the Gemara, 4 or 5 lines down. What does it mean that he's riding on 2 horses? It means that the Matna Shchiv Meira is functioning on 2 levels. Level number 1, Harehi Kematnas Bari. On the one hand, the matana that the Shchiv Meira, that the person who was about to die, the gift that he gave, on the one hand, it's as if he's healthy in the following way. He can't go back on the gift that he gave as a shchiv meira. He's on his deathbed, near-death experience. Right before he is about to die, he says, Mana shchiv meira, give over this gift. So the Gemara says, not only is the gift chal, not only is the gift as a transaction work, but even if he magically, miraculously heals, he's not allowed to go back on that gift. So on the one hand, this guy is like a bari. And at the same time, it's also like a regular gift of a person who's ill in the following way. Shim Omar Hilvesi Laploni. If he said, I actually owed money to Ploni, then Halva Aso Laploni. Then monies that he wants to give can be given back in a circuitous way. Doesn't have to first come to him and then go to the other person. It can go. Let's say person A owes him money and he owes person B. A can just give straight to B, circumventing the need to go through the Shchiv Meira. And that's a unique din. What was Shmuel's din? Shmuel Amar, Lo Yadana Ma Yidun Bey. Why does Shmuel not know how to adjudicate here? Shema Lo Gamar Lahaknosa Lebishtar. Because maybe the only way this kinyan would work is if it's expressly written in a star. And it hasn't been done yet. So Shmuel doesn't know how to get into the head of the Shchiv Meira. Rav has no problem. What's Rav doing? He's making an umdana. We'll look at the top line. Rav doesn't hold like an umdana? Yes, he does. Of course, Rav holds like an umdana. We have umdanas on almost every page of Shas. We go into people's heads all the time in regards to answering shilos. That just happens. We don't always have all the information. We have to answer tachlis. We have to give up sak. Of course, Rav holds of umdana. So says the Gemara. Let's finish up this last shita. Shema lo gamar laknos el b'shtar bein shtar la'achar misa. So that was Shmuel. But the point of our Gemara here is that, of course, Rav holds of umdana. Therefore, as we turn to the top of Nun Vav Amid Aleph, the Gemara explains as follows. Ella, you're right. Tarvaihu, Rashi adds, Rav v'Rebbi Nasa. Both of these Amoraim, they both agree to the principle of umdana. They don't all both agree to Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, but they both agree to the principle of umdana. And here's how they explain things. Manda Amar Halacha, according to the one who holds like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, that we make an umdana, an assumption on behalf of the husband that he only intended for Tosefes Ksuba to be implemented after Nisuin, but not if the marriage ends after Erusin. Halacha Shabbat, that we understand that sheet to clear. That makes perfect sense. Now, what about the man Damar who says Ein Halacha? According to the one who says Ein Halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, why did they say the halacha is not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria? If we hold of umdana, then how can you say that we don't hold like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria? That was an umdana. He made the assertion that we didn't think the Baal would want there to be a full Tosefes Ksua, even if they divorced only after Erusin. So the Gemara says, Hacha mai umdan daitahu. What was the umdana here? Maybe we'll assume Mishumi Krube Daitahu. Maybe the reason why he's giving such a large Tosefes Ksuba is to endear his fiance to him. I want to show you how much I love you. It's the whole Chakira. You give a big rock when you get engaged. Broken engagement. Does she give the ring back? What's the Gemara saying here? I'm giving her a massive gift even now. Even if we were to divorce after Erusin, it's hers. Why? Because I want to make her feel special. That's what the Gemara says. Mishumi Krube Daita. Who? And it worked. They're engaged now. He has shown her his love by adding a Tosefes Ksuba. And therefore, he says against Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria that we would pay a Tosefes Ksuba even if after a divorce, right after Erusin. And that's the machlokes between them. It's not about whether or not we hold of umdana. Even Rav is going to hold of umdana. The only question is, which umdana do we hold like? Okay, that's what the discussion is about. How do we pass in the Maisa between Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria? Do we hold like him? Let me say the question out expressly. When it comes to Tosefes Ksuba, the man has a regular Ksuba at 200, she's a Basula. He says, I love her so much, I'm adding into the Ksuba an extra 500 Tosefes Ksuba. They get engaged halachically. Harat Mekudeshesli on January 1st, Aleph Tishrei. 5 days later, big blowout, hates the mother-in-law, we're getting divorced. What happens Lemaisa with the 500? Do we paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, that the 500 only applies after Nisuin? Or do we paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, or do we not paskin not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, and she even gets the Tosefes Ksuba after a divorce, even after Erusin? So Yosef Rav Chanina, Kamed Rav Yanai. They were sitting and talking and learning. The Ka'amar halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, and he says, that's how I paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. Says the Gemara, Amar Le, poke kri karacha libra. Go read your verses out in the street. Ein halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. What are you talking about? Go read with the people who are the boors, the uneducated people. We don't paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi mishum Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu is Rav. Halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, which is fascinating, by the way. If Rav said that the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, that means that our assumption that Rav Nassan was like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria is wrong, which was just a side point. But either way, in the name of Rabbeinu, we hold like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. Another Amora holds the same way. But for Rav Nachman Didei, much as he quoted in the name of his Rebbe, he himself held Amar Ein halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. In Naharda, how did they hold? In Naharda, Mishmeid Rav Nachman Amrei halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. The Afal Gav de Lot Rav Nachman, even though Rav Nachman gave a curse, the Amar called Daina de Dain Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. Any judge who paskins like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, hachi v'hacha tehave, you should have these consequences upon you. Even so, afilu hachi halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria and tachlis v'halacha lemaisa, a very uncommon phrase in Shas, a very common phrase in our parlance. How do we paskin halacha lemaisa? Here the Gemara uses the phrase itself directly. Halacha lemaisa, what do we do? Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria. That means that Ladina. How would we paskin if we were poskim and we looked at this Gemara? We'd say a man gets engaged on Aleph Tishrei with the following ksuba: 200 because she's a basula. What? What's not likely? Aleph Tishrei, that's probably true. Let's go Gimel. Aleph Nisan, how about that? You guys are so from. So what would be the din if they get divorced right after the chuppah? Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria paskins with based on an umdana. We go with the husband's presumed assumption that he only meant for the Tosefes Ksuba to apply after Nisuin and not after Kiddushin. One more sugya, one more third of the page. We're still doing good, no? Oh, it's very early. Boy Ravin, nichnas ala chuppah v'lo nivelamahu. Look, it's great that you guys discussed the Tosefes Ksuba, and I understand we paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria that we say that it's only after Nisuin. But where's the line in the sand for Nisuin? Is the line in the sand for Nisuin nichnas ala chuppah, standing under the canopy, or do we say only after Bia? What is considered to be marriage as it relates to giving out the Tosefes? So if I'm passing like Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, got it. But within Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria, what is the line in the sand for married versus not married? Do we say chibas chuppah koneh? He's so excited to get married. We stand under a chuppah. You watch the face glowing of the chassan standing with his kala. Beautiful, great. They're married, and therefore, if they get divorced right then, the halacha is they still get the Tosefes Ksuba. Or no, maybe says the Gemara, oh, chibas bia kona. No, only after there's tashmish. I mean, these are nafkaminas in regards to covering one's hair. We've discussed this before about the mitzvah for a woman to cover her hair. So this chakira is a piece of that as well. Do we say that they're fully married as it relates to covering your hair before bia or not? The chora, she's not married because most women don't cover their hair under the chuppah. So that seems to be based on this chakira. Toshma, let's see if we can find an answer. Third of the way down, 5 lines before the wide lines. The Tani Rav Yosef, Shelo Kosav La'ela al Chibas Laila Harishon. It applies to the Chibas Laila Harishon. How do we understand that phrase? Is Chibas Laila Harishon the wedding? Is it a reference to the chuppah or a reference to Bia? If you want to say that this line of Rav Yosef quoting a brisa is talking about a chuppah, and really Rabbi Elazar ben Azaria would say the line in the sand for Nisuin is chuppah. Hainu da'amar Laila Harishon. I understand that's why we use the language of Laila Harishon. Elayamris chibas Bia kona. If you want to say that Rabbi Yosef's intent was to speak about Bia b'Laila Harishon Isa mikan ba'elach lesa. Not everyone has tashmish amita right away. Some people aren't able to physically. There's too much discomfort. It's a whole host of reasons. But that's why poskim who are the Mesadrei Kiddushin have to keep their phone on. And this happens regularly, where people on the first night have real shilas in halacha. They've tried to have tashmish amita. They're not sure if they consummated the marriage. If they did, then she's a nida midrabanan. If not, then they have to try again. Nish pasha. These require big shoulders, and they should be calling big rabbanim. So says the Gemara, they can have tashmish amita the next day, and therefore Laila Rishon must be talking about chuppah. Says the Gemara, chuppah. You want to say that Rav Yosef meant we were talking about chuppah? No way. Chuppah b'Laila Isa b'Yamama Lesa. You can't get married during the day either. What does that mean? Laila is lab dafka. Laila doesn't mean chuppah. Says the Gemara, l'tamech bia b'Laila Isa b'Yamama Lesa. Can't be bia either. We don't know what Rav Yosef meant because it could be either one. Says the Gemara, after all, we know that there is tashmish amita during the day under specific circumstances because Ha'amar Rava, 2 lines into the wide lines, Ha'amar Rava im haya beves afel mutter, that if there was a pressing need for a couple to be meshamish mitasim during the day, so as long as there was a bais afel, it was a darker house, then it's mutter for there to be tashmish amita. So we see that it's mutter for there to be tashmish during the day. The haraya that tashmish can be laila or yom. So maybe Rav Yosef, we don't know what he means. Maybe he didn't mean tashmish amita. Says the Gemara halokasha orach ara kamash malan the bia b'laila. It's just the way. It's the normal way things are. It's orach ara. That's the right way. It's the normal way. Tashmish amita should be at night. Says the Gemara chuppah kasha. So we can understand that maybe he's talking about bia but chuppah. How do we understand that? Says the Gemara, chuppah nami lo kasha. Kevin the stam chuppah lebia kaima. Really, the chuppah is what enables the couple to have tashmish amita. Orach ara kamash malan dibalayla. So we really don't know. We have 2 perfectly viable ways to understand Rav Yosef. It either could be talking about chuppah or it could be talking about bia. We don't know. And on the same line, by Rav Ashi, and with this question and its very brief answer, we will end. Rav Ashi says, oh, let's say, as it relates to Tosefes Ksuba, they get married on, we'll go with David's makbid. I know you're so from. It's going to be Gimel Tishrei. They get married on Gimel Tishrei, and they get married at 8 p.m. at night. Arad Mikudeshesli, all the brachas under the chuppah, and they go into the yichud room. They come out for dancing, and right at the end of dancing, and before they're together, she's poreses nida, she becomes a nida. Now they're not even allowed to be together, even conceptually. What's the din? If they get divorced right then, what about the Tosefes Ksuba? Most deeply, where's the line in the sand for where Nesuin is finally chal as it relates to the Tosefes Ksuba? Says the Gemara, Im tim lo marchibas chuppah kona. If you want to say it's all about the chuppah dechazi lebia, maybe I'd argue it's only a chuppah that could lead to bia. Aval chuppah de lo chazi lebia lo. But maybe I would argue that if the chuppah cannot lead to bia, as would be the case in a chuppah snida, so therefore you're not really fully married. Or perhaps there's no difference, and really we would consider this to be a chuppah. So for both of these questions, the question of whether or not chuppah alone versus bia would be the threshold, and then by extension, the second question of chuppah that is a chuppah snida, where would we draw the line for Tosefes Ksuba? The Gemara says, Teku, we do not know. Tomorrow night, Amir Hashem will pick up right here, 2/3 of the way down on on-the-Daf. Wishing you all a beautiful night.